Hi folks, Rachel here from Beads by Rachel, and this tutorial is going to be showing you how to use crimping chain. Let me show you what the chain looks like. It's very fine and these are quite nice and bright, and this is one of the finished pieces. I'm going to take you through step by step and showing you how you use these CALLOT ends to create a really nice neat finish. As always, please do give me a thumbs up and do pop me a note in the comments so I know you were present. You're going to need some parallel pliers, flat nose pliers for your opening and closing of your jump rings, chain nose pliers, and some cutters so that you can cut the relevant size of your chain as well. I'm going to be using 6mm and 4mm glass pearls. Also, just to give it a bit of a lift, I've got some size 6 and some size 8 seed beads. Couldn't think of the word then. If you've got a mix of lots of leftover beads, there's no reason why you can't just do a completely mixed random, perhaps in a colour, one colour or multicolour. The only thing that I find I struggle to get onto the chain is freshwater pearls because the holes on them are so fine. Also, what I'm going to show you is how you can use this to make earrings. I'm using a bead board. Now, if you're not familiar with a bead board, I will talk you through it. But a bead board is really a visual tool that gives you not only the measurements, but it also allows you to perhaps work out your design before you decide to do it. Now, it's not essential. Just a simple ruler is absolutely fine. A bead mat. I've actually cut a length about 20 inches. But really you don't need any more than the actual required length. Also, I'm going to start in the centre because it's far easier to start in the centre and work your way out. This is the bead board and you've got 3 tiers in the bead board. For those of you that haven't used it, the outer tier gives you the true measurement that's on the side. So that's the one we're using. The other two are if you're doing multi-strand, it spaces it out for you. If you've got a really long necklace, you can go all the way around. So you can go up to 17.5 inches each side on this. This is what I've laid out for the centre. I'm actually going to grab my chain. I'm just going to pop this board out the way so that I can show you the first part. So these are ordinary crimp beads that you use with tiger tail for those that you've done stringing before. I'm going to bring both ends together because I want to find my centre point. But I don't want to anchor it right at the centre point. I want to take it at a slight angle, which is also why it's quite good to give a bit of extra in case your initial spacing isn't quite right. I am going to squeeze that crimp bead with my chain nose pliers and just double check that that doesn't move. So this is the design that I've got. I am going to thread that on to the longer end. And surprisingly, these tiny little 4mm pearls, it fits on quite nicely. There's no right or wrong way to design. There's no right or wrong way to how far apart you have them. It's very much a visual thing, it's a preferential thing, and it's just a case of practicing as well. Oh, that's gone through. The bigger seed beads are size 6. Also, another top tip for having a bigger, or I should say on having one of the smaller seed beads towards the end of the group you're about to crimp, is the fact that there's no worries that your crimp bead's going to disappear into the remit of the bead hole. I'm going to shimmy this board to one side again. So that's my initial design that's going to be right in the centre. I would suggest that you do have a bigger design in the middle because you want it to hang properly. So you want it to have a little bit more weight perhaps than the rest of it. Let's just zoom in. So there's my little cluster. I like my crimp beads to be facing the same direction. So that one's that way and I want the other one to be the same way. I'm going to squeeze that in place. So there you've got the first part. Now you could do this one of two ways. Either you could do it on the bead board or you could measure a distance with your ruler. And I think for ease of doing this on screen, I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to bring the next group in and 2 inches from the last crimp bead. So there's my last crimp bead, there's my new crimp bead. That is where I want my next group to begin. So move that to one side and we're going to squeeze that. There's your centre, there's your next group. So I've just made it a slightly smaller group. I'm going to thread on a crimp bead, I'm going to squeeze that as before. It's up to you how far apart you have them, another 2 inches away. So I'm going to measure from the end of the last crimp bead at 0, measure it at the 2 like I say, and squeeze that. Squeeze that crimp bead. We have the centre one here, which is a combination of beads. Then we have a group of pearls here and here, and a single one at the top. This is called a CALLOT. We have a hole at the side and we have a hole in the middle. It's the hole in the middle that you're taking the chain through. The hole at the end is to add your clasp. Push your chain up through the centre of the CALLOT. You just let the CALLOT drop. We will now pop a crimp bead right on the end. Now, I would suggest that you measure your chain and cut it to where you want the length. But in this case, that's gonna be the end. So I've secured that crimp bead in place. I'm pushing up the CALLOT, and now with my chain nose pliers, that CALLOT will be closed, and that chain sits nice and neatly inside there. Now for the adding the clasp. You have a jump ring, you have your parallel pliers in the left, your chain nose pliers in the right, and vice versa if you're left-handed. Just open it with a rocking action, pop the CALLOT on there and pop the clasp. If you're having the other side, you can just leave it plain with a jump ring, or you could pop an extender chain on. When you've popped the relevant ending and finding on, close that up and return that back to the 12 o'clock position. And there you have a really nice, neat finish. The CALLOTs are available in bronze, in gold, in silver, and like I mentioned in the last one, there are also CALLOTs that have no preformed hook, where you have to do that yourself. Personally, I'm not a great lover of that because I find that they can look, unless you've got consistent loops, they can look a bit unsightly and they don't quite sit right at the back. But having said that, If you like sterling silver, you can buy that style from Cooks and Gold, and because it's sterling silver, if you order sterling, it's a lot softer. So just bear that in mind. So I would start off with adding the chain to CALLOT for making the earrings. Pop the chain up through the middle of the CALLOT. I'm going to crimp that on the end. That's secured that in place. Sometimes you can actually do these with your fingers, like so. But it's probably best to do it with your pliers. You get a more stable look on there. I haven't actually put a second crimp bead on this one. I am now going to pop on the sequence of beads in the same order as the other one. I'm going to make those the same length. I am going to cut my chain. Hopefully that'll be the same length. It cuts pretty well with your side cutters. And then pop a crimp bead on the end. Squeeze. Finally, I'm opening up the attachment on the base of the earring by pulling it up. Hopefully you can see that. Pop that on there and then close that up. And there you have your matching pair of earrings. Have your matching necklace and your pair of earrings. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye.